let's get on with our last talk before we get into lunch. We'll still kind of keep the rest of the schedule going. And for this, I'd like to bring on Yevgeny from DIMO to tell you all the things that they're up to with making transportation more and more accessible and data heavy. So please give him a big round of applause.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yevgeny. I am one of the founders and CTO at Digital Infrastructure, Inc., and want to talk to you today about how we're making transportation more programmable. Before DIMO, I spent a decade, even actually going back to my childhood, always loving cars. So out of school, I decided to go work in the auto industry and build a lot of cool things there, everything from dynamic charging to launching self-driving car fleets with Ford in Miami and most recently Volkswagen. And what I learned during that time is building in transportation, building in the real world is very, very difficult. There is a lot of integrations to do. There's a lot of shared state that you just don't have access to. So my goal for today is to come to talk to all the builders here in SF and hopefully tell you why you should start building on DIMO. So first things first, cars produce a lot of data, and as all transportation assets, that data is very siloed, whether that be in the automaker's data center or the trip data in Uber's data center. The best digital twin for any car today is Carfax. And this data is, minute pieces spread out throughout the industry and your insurance company and so on and so forth. But if you're a developer, it's impossible to get to almost any of this data at scale. You have to go and wait and ask for permission. The second part of the problem is verifiability. There's a lot of complexity between the regulators, the cities, the automakers, and they spend a lot of time trying to solve this problem, but at the end of the day, you can still fake an odometer and roll it back on cars on the road. And this problem is going to get much worse with self-driving cars because the way it works today, you have to ask the company that made the self-driving system or the company that made the car what happened. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't get on a plane if I always had to only trust Boeing with what happened. And then even, talking about 100-year-old companies that have been around forever, they can't even seem to protect the basic telemetry data. It leaks all the time. The passwords get stolen. If we can't scale past telemetry, how can we build self-driving robo-taxis and have them work globally? The way DIMO is building this is with an open network. So we are really just an open source project at its core. We have over 100 repositories where everything can be used by anyone who's interested in IoT. But the really interesting part is how we're doing it with a community. So we have 15,000 people in our Discord, and some of them are just car people, and some of them are building applications. Some of them are reverse engineering vehicle CAN buses to get more data. But this is a key part of what DIMO is. Our team was early in the crypto space, going back to Bitcoin in college. And we were inspired by the Ethereum vision of a global computer. And the thing that really, personally at least, brought me back into the space was Helium. I found the interoperability between the physical and the digital and the verifying of that data extremely compelling. And for the automotive space, going back to the shared state problem, the distributed ledger is an amazing place to put that state, a DMV, if you will. So to simplify all that, transportation and cars as a whole are stuck in this BlackBerry age where they're kind of smart, but not smart enough. And our pitch to developers is we can provide you all the building blocks to build an app store for transportation services. In terms of the software itself, what we're trying to sit is kind of between the pieces so people can get to building. So on one side of it, you can use our hardware SDKs, you can use software connections to start building your digital twin. On the other side, developers can come and build services. And all this data is accessible with user permission only. But what we're hoping this creates is an open, truly open transportation network that can work globally. So far, on the, let's say, user side, Between the 3 devices we have and the software connections to Tesla and other OEMs, we've gotten to 115,000 cars connected in just under 3 years. We have a long way to go, but this is a core part of what makes DIMO very powerful. Our mission at the end of the day is to create an open marketplace where people can build hardware, and this could be car devices, this could be chargers, this could be gas stations, this could be parking, or even self-driving systems for cars that all compete in an open marketplace that anyone can access and makes mobility better for humanity as a whole. Going back to the 115,000 cars, so the longer you are part of the network, the more data you have available. And over time, this data can actually be augmented by the applications in the network itself. So right now, we've gotten some drivers to join, and we've released some SDKs. In a few years, I'm hopeful that people can go into DIMO and get a battery score, get new insurance, rent their car out, and maybe even sell it if they want to. So our pitch to devs, there's an existing user base here. You're not building with no one on the other side. There's APIs and SDKs that are easy to get started with. There's trust with the user because it's built in an open way with smart contracts and verifiability, and you can openly add your service. Where we hope this goes is building on the trust and the ecosystem that we can actually start to solve the really big challenging problems like charging, vehicle-to-grid communication, or even vehicle-to-vehicle communication verifiability. So let's dive into the actual building blocks. The way we think of DIMO is in a few layers. At the very bottom here, we have the registry, which is the smart contracts that can run on any EVM-compatible chain. Today, we're on Polygon. The second part of this is we'll call it the L2, the off-chain nodes. They are providing data streaming, data storage, and verify that any data is accessible to only the developer that was granted access. And above that, we have clients and applications. A client could be a mobile app, and an application could be, for example, insurance. A good way to think of the smart contracts themselves, and we have about 20, maybe even more now, is they address a few key pieces. So for manufacturers and for device makers, you can handle everything from provisioning in the factory, and we have even minted directly from our factory, to even very complicated lifecycle things like factory reset when a user has a problem. For the user, it's the ability to pick where they want to store their data, who has access to their data. And it starts to look like a graph of all of these IoT assets that you can access from the real world with no permission to see if the data is valid, but not necessarily to see the data. One level below that is the node itself. It has 3 main functionalities. First one is identity. This is just indexing the on-chain data. Second one is telemetry. So if you have access, you can actually read where the car is, are the doors open, see which heading it's going into. And finally, ingest, which is if you are integrating a new device type, this is an open way for you to send data in and for it to be indexed and accessible on the other side. You can also extend this with, for example, trip information or charging information, customizable to the use case. I talked briefly about verification, but all the data is from whatever source it came from, whether it's, this hardware device, which has a secure element, or a software connection. For all of these data points, they're verified upon receipt, and some of them are even double verified by the fact of which Helium hotspot or which cell tower they came from. So while we don't quite have millions of cars to do car-to-car attestation, we'll get there eventually. We are able to verify it with real-world data today. And you can use this to generate an attestation of odometer or VIN or any other data point that has been sent in. So now let's dive into some of the things people have been building, because I think that's probably the exciting part. Otherwise, we're just building code for code's sake. So first one, we actually ran with the Moken and the Helium team. And this was a real-world game, mapping challenge, if you will. So whichever car had mapped the most Helium hotspots was able to win an award. And I think it's a fascinating interoperability between the physical and the digital realms, where now people are just driving, but they can verify that something else is really happening in the world, that Helium hotspot really exists, and earn something for it. Oh, back. Another one is an actual application from, I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Carvis came to us a couple months ago, two guys from the analytics world of GM and Ford. They were blocked by being unable to get to any car data or any users. And what they wanted to do was build basically a chatbot for your vehicle, so you could ask it questions, so it could tell you when your car needs repair, so it could tell you where to go to get your car repaired. And within just a month, we were able to get them integrated, and now you can, if you're a DIMO user, go to Carvis, log in, and start asking questions about your car's data, and when you should get an oil change, when you should go get it fixed. And I'm very excited about this part because there used to be a lot of futuristic things, but now, after the last ETH Online event, they've actually been built. So I wanted to highlight one specific use case here, which is taxi. I love Uber and Lyft. I love what they've done. Also a fun, challenging problem to do dispatch of vehicles. But they also put all the local taxi cab companies out of business while giving us a standard way to request rides globally. Now, what if we flip that and just have a standard way to request rides globally, and people can build their own interface, and we can go back to local taxi cab ownership in a world where the driver gets to keep most of the money that's being made, and the rider gets to have a lower rate. Games. This is something that has always piqued my curiosity. As a kid, I always wanted to import my car into Gran Turismo, and someone actually came along and built that. So this is a driving game where you can import the real-world state of your car, and whether it's has an issue, has a flat tire, and have it be represented in the metaverse, if you will. EV charging. So it's been many years now, and we're still struggling to be able to sell enough electric cars that are better for the world because people are worried about charging. If you use DIMO, you could add a vehicle charger and list it as an open service in the marketplace, and now you went from however many chargers there are now to probably 10x that by enabling everyone with a charger in their house to rent it out. And the owner of the car gets to keep most of the profit, and I get to find a charger anywhere there is another DIMO-compatible charger. Shared ownership. This is something that I think we tried to dive into in the early 2010s, but didn't quite work out because there wasn't really a good way to represent it. AutoDAO built a smart contract system so you could have shared ownership of a car. So let's say you live in New York and you share a car between a few people, or maybe you live in SF and you want to share a car. You can purchase a car and actually represent this shared ownership in a smart contract. And last but not least is the last slide I've left, which is car rental. Cars sit idle 95% of the time. Wouldn't it be great if I could make some extra money on the side by just putting it up for anyone to rent? I think the last piece we need for this is the insurance VC. But once that's in place, I'm very excited to be able to rent out my car. So today, we have our documentation available in our developer console. And you can go there and get started today and mint your dev license. And to close this out, I cut some time off because I'm not going to be giving a laptop demo. For everyone here, if you're a builder, we've put I think most of the pieces in place for you to be able to get started building in the transportation space, building a DIMO device, building the next revolutionary app in transportation. If you're working DeFi, I'd love to find a way to be able to solve the financing problem with modern cars by using these huge pools of money to be able to give somebody a lower rate than 8%. Seems easily doable, no? And if you work in any other gaming industry or anywhere else, I would love to see you build the next fun app for cars. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me or find me in Discord or find me at the conference. But excited to see where we go from here. Thank you so much.